So I'm currently in the what we call a coffer dam, which is basically the space between the water tanks on this side and the fuel tanks on this side. And this is below the deck on the boat. So you can sort of see here, it's maybe 3 meters tall from the deck down to essentially the key. All I have to do is I've got to put these, you can see this hole here, this is the access port into the water tank. So I have to put a big steel plate that basically goes over it. So if you can see this one, this is the fuel tank access port. So it's a steel plate that's bolted on to this wall here with 16 bolts. It's exactly the same on the other side for the water tank. So I've just got to go through, I'm going to go through with this here. So it's a tap that I bought that I've got to go through and just clean up all of the threads. If you have a look at some of these holes up here, I've tapped them out and the tap basically runs quite nice and clean. You spin it in quite easy. They're all cleaned out, ready to go. Lovely bolts, lovely threads in there. And there's all the junk that's come out has come out with the tap and everything. But if you have a look at some of these ones here, you can sort of see that as we've painted it, this is really thick paint, this stuff. And as we've painted it, it's accumulated on the bottom edge. So there's basically a big lip of paint that we have to cut out with the tap, and that's why I'm going through and doing this now. So I'm going to put all the sealant on this plate. So I've marked the line where I need to go out to. So I basically have to build a bead that big all the way around. When I use this stuff and I try and create really big beads, one of the tricks that I've found is instead of, like normally the nozzle comes down quite a way and it's got a small wee hole, I actually cut it back quite a way. So I don't know if you can see that, but that hole's probably, I don't know, 3/4 of a centimetre thick. Just helps you pile it on a lot thicker, because we're after a pretty massive bead of sealant. So yeah, you'll see what I mean when I start piling it on. Don't be too shy with it. The reason we put so much sealant on is because if I was to bolt this up directly hard, like if I put the sealant on, put it up on this flange and then did it up hard, pretty much all of the sealant would squeeze out the sides. So I put a heap on like this, and then when I bolt it up, I actually make sure it's sticking, like I actually put a little something to hold it off the flange. So I put, in this case I'm going to use some spare washers, which will hold it about 3 millimeters off the flange, so that no matter how tight I do the bolts, there's always going to be a 3mm gap that the sealant then fills up. And then it takes a maximum of about 5 days for this stuff to go off fully. And then in 5 days time I come down and do all the bolts up nice and hard, and the sealant pretty much acts, it gets squeezed up really tight then. So overall you end up with a heck of a lot better seal than if you were to just do them up tight and leave them and walk away. And I put my windows on. The windows are held only by sealant. There's no bolts or anything like that holding the windows on. And that's how they do it on the fishing trawlers and stuff around where we are. It's you can, like, if you use the right stuff, it can be up to survey spec, can be done like that. And it also gives the windows a bit of flexibility. So if you take a big stonking great big bit of water over the bow or something like that, yeah, the window's got a bit of flex, the sealant's got a bit of flex, so it can sort of hold the window on rather than relying on bolts or something mechanical to hold it there. So that's all we need to do for this. Now I'm going to stick it up on the flange and I'll show you how we bolt that together. Because the sealant's going to squeeze everywhere, I have to put every bolt in so that I can get the bolt through easy enough. What I'm going to do is basically nip them all up so that again I get that 3mm of gap all the way around. So I'm going to put a washer on each side so that I know that it's got that 3mm. I'll nip all of them up and then let it go hard, so probably in a day or so. Then I'll take all of the bolts out, and then the sealant itself will more than hold the lid shut, and then I'll put a copper coat type product on the bolt. Then to have to take these lids off probably once a year and give the tanks a good water blast so that it's nice and hygienic in there, because I don't want to be drinking disgusting water. Alright, so that's our 4 bolts that is basically going to take the weight. So these washers are just the spring washers that are going behind each of these bolts. But basically I'm just going to sit them down in the goop on each of the 4 corners, and then I know that the steel can't lock up and keep our distance more than we want it. When I went to the bolt shop to get these bolts, I was thinking, oh, I'll make this look awesome, I'll go and get stainless and replace all of them with stainless. And there's 16 bolts in every one of these inspection ports. My idea of doing stainless went out the window when I realised that that bolt there, that's just a normal steel bolt, zinc coated steel bolt, is 60 cents. And if I was to do that in stainless, that price is $3.60 per bolt. So as you can see, starting to get all of the bolts done up. When I first started working on the boat in 2014, I was not used to Bundaberg temperature, and it would be like some days 35 degrees, which for Australia doesn't really sound that hot, but the humidity is like really full on. And I'd be drinking like 2 litres of water a day, sweating profusely, and I thought maybe I should stop when it's really, really hard days like that, But after 3 years of doing the boat, or coming on to 3 years of doing the boat, I realised that it's just like every other day is like that. So I just press on. That's why in the videos when you see me, I'm normally sweating and I look like I've been in a sauna, because it's about 50 degrees in here. So that's the finished example of what it comes up like. So it's basically a nice white hatch with shiny zinc bolts on it. There's the other one there. The paint does come off a little bit because you obviously scratch it when you start doing it up with the spanner and so on, but it's all good. This is a part of the boat we're almost never in. So yeah, so I'll give all of this a good water blast and clean up. There's muck and rubbish all over the floor, but we can start to get all of the water pumps and everything hooked up now.